Good afternoon and welcome back to the show. It is the Friday afternoon podcast, so do make sure to leave a like on the video if you like this kind of content. Today we'll be talking about, we'll be addressing the elephant in the room, that is the coronavirus. We'll be talking about Pogba, who's not a virus, but to some people he is. We'll be talking about Jude Bellingham as well, and then we'll be talking about some prospect signings, or some potential signings rather, that might or may not happen depending on whether Paul Pogba stays or leaves. So if you're interested in that, do hang around and listen to the show. Of course, I'm joined by Shawnee today, as usual, on the Friday afternoon show. So without any further ado, man, let's get into it. Let's address the elephant in the room. Coronavirus, it's spread all around Europe and pretty much all over the world now. It's a pandemic that we have to deal with as a society. And I just think it's important to talk about it in context of football. Obviously, health is the most important thing, but we're here to talk about football because this is a fan channel. How do you think it will affect the Premier League, and not just Manchester United, obviously, but how do you think it will affect the Premier League going forward and perhaps some of the other leagues and competitions?
Well, I think we've seen it in other sports where, things like Formula 1 have been cancelled, NBA has been cancelled, Serie A has been cancelled. So I think it's a matter of time with the Premier League. And I think, people like Arteta, the Arsenal manager, getting the coronavirus, people like Hudson-Odoi now getting affected, and a few others. I'm actually quite shocked that the Premier League hasn't taken action yet and suspended or even said anything. We're still going on with the weekend games from what I've heard, and it won't be even behind closed doors. It'll have the fans. So, yeah, it's just very shocking. And I think the way they've handled it was very immature.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously in the UK, the coronavirus is very much alive and well. And it's one of, I think the UK, England and Ireland have they're in the top 5 list in Europe for the amount of coronavirus cases at the moment. So, look, I'm obviously not an expert on the virus and not doctor or anything like that, but I do think that, public gatherings is not a very good idea from what we're hearing from the media and the news and basically from everything we know about this virus. And to see the Premier League continue to play games as usual. I mean, I expected games to at least be played behind closed doors, at the very least, but to see it continue the way it is, it is a bit scary. It is a bit worrisome, but I don't know I think at the moment the Premier League is only continuing as normal because the government in the UK hasn't really taken any serious measures. I do think a few weeks in from now we will start to see the Premier League change. They can't be stubborn forever. Like it can't go on because you were talking about it off air. Arteta's been infected by the coronavirus now. There's 3 Leicester City players who've been quarantined. So it's going to get to a point where people who are in the Premier League, who work for the Premier League, are infected as well, and putting them or making them go to work is going to be endangering other people. So, and football's a contact sport, obviously. So I don't know. What do you think should happen with Liverpool if the league does get suspended?
I mean,
what's your opinion on that?
Everyone is like, cancel the league, don't let Liverpool win the league. But, in terms of Liverpool, for me, as a United fan, obviously, there will be nothing better than Liverpool not getting the league this season. But I think, if you look from a Liverpool point of view, I think they deserve it. I think their fans they won't have it if they don't get the league this season. They literally bottled everything else. And I think it'll be suspended. I don't think they will not give Liverpool the league. I think it's inevitable that they will get the league. I think some Liverpool fans you'll have that saying we didn't want to win the league this way, want to do it properly or whatever. But then you get the Liverpool fans who don't care, they waited 30 years for this moment in their life. When it comes, they'll take it.
Look, personally, this has got nothing to do with the Liverpool and Manchester United rivalry. Like, obviously, Liverpool deserve to win the title, but for me, rules are rules. Like, if you say Liverpool deserve to win the title this early in the season, then are you then saying that the teams that are currently in the relegation zone deserve to be relegated? And I think when you make statements like that, you're crossing a bit of a line, or you're going to start stepping on people's toes, because I think if Liverpool was the only thing that mattered in this equation, yeah, give them the league. But the problem is there's other teams involved. There's teams who could potentially make top 4, who are within 3 points of making top 4, and you've got to compensate for them. You've also got to compensate for the teams in the relegation zone. And I just think there's no fair and objective way of doing it without completing the league, without playing the full 38 games. And I think a lot of people will say, well, just call off the league for now and then postpone it and bring it back later. And I think, yeah, that's probably the right approach, but you have to think about the fact that there's other implications, right? UEFA still need to decide whether or not the Euros are going to take place. UEFA still need to decide if the Europa League and the Champions League is going to take place. And if you take a month away from football, you've then got to compensate for that month in less time. And then you've got to decide what happens with next season as well. Do you push next season away? But, so it's just a mess. It's a mess in terms of logistics. And I don't know how they're going to solve it. And you also have to think about other leagues as well. Like, if you're scheduling UEFA Champions League games on the fly, you have to think about the fact that other leagues might resume at different times. Like, the Serie A closed down before any other league in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And then other leagues followed. So obviously other leagues have played more games than Serie A has because they stopped earlier. So now you got to compensate for that. And I just think it's not as simple as, let's just pause football for a month and then resume where we left off. It's not that simple. There's a lot of things involved, and it's going to be weird, man. It's going to be weird, but if Liverpool do get given the title, fair play to them. Like, for me, there's a bigger picture here, and I'm not going to get involved in Liverpool don't deserve to win, Liverpool do deserve to win. I'm just looking at the rules and trying to do what's fair, But it's interesting. I don't think there's anything more else to say with regards to the coronavirus. It's sad that Arteta has got the virus, but it was expected. It was expected. So, do you have anything else to say with regards to COVID-19?
Just, thoughts and prayers to anyone who's been affected or knows anyone who's been affected, and, just in the world in general, something that no one wants to go through, but I'm sure like everything in life will come through it, and, football will resume, things will have to go on at some point, the coronavirus it might be there forever, but we'll learn how to adapt to, get through it.
Yeah, football will come back. Football will come back, definitely. I'd like to move on to Paul Pogba then, talking about his future at Manchester United. There's been a few developments. Post-match press, the first thing that stands up to me is the post-match press conference of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer after the game against Lask. He was asked about the future of Igalo and the future of Paul Pogba. And he responded that Paul Pogba still has 2 years left on his contract, plus an option to extend after that. So Paul Pogba could very well stay. In the words of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it looks like he is going to stay, but you just never know with these things. What are your thoughts on Paul Pogba and whether or not he'll stay?
Well, shout out to Flex UTD, from the United Stand. If anyone doesn't know, he's basically presented there. He got into the press conference and asked, what is the plans about Paul Pogba? And, Ole said that we can expect for Paul Pogba to stay this next season. And, I think from United's point of view, I think they don't want to get rid of Paul Pogba. They're going to do everything in their power to keep him at the club. So I think he'll still leave. I don't know. It's
difficult. It's difficult. Yeah. It's what makes it difficult for me is the coronavirus, because if there's no football, particularly in Italy where he wants to go to Juve, they might not do business in the summer because a lot of teams are going to take a financial hit as a result of the fact that there's no football. Ticket revenue, revenue from all the sales in the area, like the restaurants at the stadiums, pretty much everything, shirt sales, all that jazz. It's gonna go silent for the next few months, and I just think that's gonna affect the transfer window and normal proceedings. So we'll just have to wait and see. And then the Euros might not get played as well, so he might not get a chance to represent himself for France, and that might drastically change. Things in the summer. Like, why would you pay £100+ million for a player you haven't seen play since 2019? Post coronavirus and whatever's happening when your budget is really low. That's another thing. Mark Goldbridge from the United Stand used a brilliant analogy. He called it the golden cage. That players like Neymar and Pogba have built themselves a golden cage. They went to clubs like Manchester United and PSG, got paid loads of money, and then when they want to leave, they're too expensive, their value's too high, and nobody can afford them. And I think that's a problem that Paul Pogba might struggle with. It's a weird problem because it's a prison of his own making, but hence the golden cage. But it's strange. I don't know. We'll just have to see with Pogba. But do you think we'll sign anyone if we do keep Pogba?
That's the thing.
What happens with Grealish?
I think the things they would be telling Paul Pogba in order to stay was that, listen, Paul, if you do stay, I know we said this in the past, so we'll build a team around you, help you win trophies, because that's what you want to do. You're in your prime, one of the best players in the world. Obviously, you want the best for your career. But if you can somehow, let's just go with the transfer rumors. If we got Jadon Sancho, we got Jack Grealish, and maybe a striker, or just another signing, another good signing. Maybe a Jude Bellingham, someone like that, even though you won't probably play that much first team, but someone else, and you show. And then all of a sudden we kept Pogba, we've got Bruno now, we get a Grealish and we get a Sancho. That team without current defense looks very, very dangerous. I think Paul Pogba would be the biggest key part if you keep him to helping get back to challenging for league titles and becoming a serious opponent again. And I think if you say, Paul, listen, stay, and we'll 100% get you players like Jadon Sancho, like, listen, this is the type of players you're going to bring in. And I think if everything goes well and on paper we have that team, it'll be a madness. But then if I was Paul Pogba also, I'd be thinking, yeah, but you guys said this in the past, that you're going to build a team around me, you promised me this, and, things just haven't happened, We've been poor for the last few seasons. I'm not going to get any younger. I want to win trophies. But then again, with that price, he's stuck at United.
Look, I think things have changed. I do. And that doesn't mean I'm pro Ollie. That doesn't mean I'm pro what's happening at United. It doesn't mean I'm pro Glazers or pro Ed Woodward. No. I think things have changed because I think over the last 10 or so games, not even 10 or so games, over the last month or two, I think I've seen something from Manchester United that I actually like. I've seen character from the players. I've seen us actually close out games and not just bottle results like everyone expects us to. I've seen us beat teams like Watford, beat teams like Bruges, beat teams like Lask, whereas in the past we always went into those kinds of games thinking, here we go again. We beat Man City, but will we close it out against the smaller teams and the lesser sides? I've seen us play good, dominant, attacking football against the smaller teams and close out those results. I've seen us do it against the Man Cities and the Chelseas as well. So there is more consistency coming into the team. Bruno and Igalo yesterday with brilliant link-up play between the two. A few months ago, we didn't have that. We didn't have a big number 9 and a cam linking up together. Now we do. So there's a lot of positives with United at the moment, and I think things have changed for the better. I think you look at where the team is now, Paul Pogba could be looking at that team and saying, okay, now you're actually building something, whereas in the past there wasn't really much. It was just one big signing every transfer window, and then that just became a flop. And I do think things have changed, and obviously because of the coronavirus and everything. But I do want to ask you this. Odion Igalo, right? We've spoken in the past about a guy like Romero. Sergio Romero is a quality goalkeeper who probably could get first-team football somewhere else, but he decides that he loves this club and he doesn't mind being a second goalkeeper to David De Gea. Is that the same thing with Odion Igalo, and would you be happy to see Odion Igalo be a bench striker for Manchester United, potentially, for the next few seasons?
No, I see much more about Odion. But I think, Odion will be more than happy to be that role, be like, listen, I understand I'm not going to be the best striker at United. I understand that I'm going to be like almost a bench player, but he will get lots of game times. I think Europa League games, Cup games, he will play. And if an injury does happen, he will play. So I think it's more than just a bench play for Odion. And honestly, I'd give him a contract. I think Ollie, when he came in, he said, I'm giving you the chance now. This is your team. Whether or not you take the chance, that's up to you now. And I think he's done it, and I love Odion. I think every United fan, we even had their doubts, are now coming around, because how can you not like Odion? He's a fan of the club. Like I said, when Odion scores, I feel like we've scored as fans. He's one of us. The way he speaks, it just reminds you so much as if a fan was there. Be like, no, this is my dream. I've always wanted to play for United. The paycheck that he'll have to take at United will be a very big cut. But then again, I think he loves our club so much, so it could happen. I think he would take a pay cut. I mean, he did it for the loan anyways. He said, when United came, I didn't care. I just wanted my agent to get done, so I'll become a United player. And I think he'd be over the moon if he came to United permanently.
Plus, he's played in China for what is it, a couple of seasons, 2.5 seasons, and then he got cut short because of the coronavirus. So he has money. Well, if he's been investing it wisely, he has money. So I think he went to China. He did the China project. He got his money, and now he can come back into the Premier League. And look, it's not like he's not gonna be making any money in the Premier League. Like he'll probably still get 100k per week, 150k, but 150k for bench striker. I tell you what, if it wasn't Igalo, that's a very sketchy wage bill for a guy who is going to play a lot of football, but is also someone who everyone was going, oh, we're signing Igalo in the transfer window. What an embarrassment, you know. It's weird to go from what an embarrassment to let's pay this guy 150k to come off the bench for Martial. It's a very strange circumstance. But
I'd rather have
I
him
agree
have
with
that 150k over Mata. You know, he's done more goals. I think he's got probably more goals and contributions than Mata. So
True.
I'd rather have him over Mata.
Look, I'm for Igalo. As long as he doesn't become a first-team striker, obviously. I've heard some ridiculous remarks that Igalo could be better than Martial, and it's what a load of crap. What a load of crap. Because even if you do think that Igalo hasn't been here long enough compared to Martial, and Martial has more goals and more games under his belt, so what a load of crap. There's no argument there. It's like saying Liverpool are the greatest team of all time when you haven't waited to see if they'll actually win anything at the end of the season. You know, so it's just too soon for that argument, and I don't think that argument will ever have any substance. But again, they're both players for our team, so I don't know why we have to compare them. You know, Igalo, if Igalo is here to stay, let's just embrace him and let's stop all the Martial versus Igalo crap. They're two different kinds of strikers. They have two different things to offer, and they are better in, like, they have their weaknesses and strengths in different situations. So I don't see the point of comparing them and creating another divide. Jude Bellingham, how much do you know about him? Just moving on to
I know
someone else.
He's got like 30 games, maybe even more or less, or maybe less games in the championship at the age of 16, playing as a midfielder, more specifically CDM. And I think 16 years old, controlling the midfield in the championship, which is probably the most aggressive league in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that just says it all alone how special this kid is. You know, I think if he's been that fit and physical to play at that level at that age, I think this kid could be a future star. You know, as long as he's managed properly, you know, his head is at the right place. I think whoever gets Jude Bellingham will get a real one for the future. And I think, you know, with Jude Bellingham, I heard obviously from the UK side about their fans saying, the Birmingham fans saying how special he is, and they actually back Jude Bellingham to go to United because obviously, you know, he's English. He's young. He went to Old Trafford also recently, have a tour with Sir Alex, and, you know, just get a look around the Old Trafford. And I'm sure, you know, United are good at selling the dreams. You know, the PR spin and all of that. They're good at doing that stuff there. But I know Bellingham will probably go to Dortmund. You know, see what it's like there. I'm sure he'll make the smart choice. But yeah, if United did get Jude Bellingham, I have no problems. You know, 16 years old, championship player, but he's played a lot of games. CDM, we need a CDM, and I think if we manage him properly, this kid could be very good for the future.
Yeah, Championship is obviously a very competitive league, so he is a player who can play. He's proven himself at not the highest level, but at a very competitive level, because the Championship, some would say, is very, very competitive, almost as competitive as the Premier League, and almost more physical than the Premier League, actually. So it's positive, and yeah, I was about to mention that, yeah, Manchester United really want this player, don't they? Because it's not often you get a tour with Sir Alex and you get shown around the grounds and all that effort gets put into convincing you to join the club. It's not often. I've heard of legends in the past who've gone to Arsenal and have gone to other clubs, other big clubs in England, because they felt Manchester United didn't make the effort to, you know, get them into the team. And now with Jude Bellingham, they don't want to make that mistake again, you know. They even called Sir Alex up, like, come here, sell this kid the dream. So it's crazy. I don't know much about Jude Bellingham in terms of his technical ability and in terms of his prowess as a footballer. You know, but I don't think you need to know that much when this kid is 16 years old and he's starting in the Championship. I don't think, like, you don't need any more knowledge with regards to that. What I will say about Jude Bellingham is, if we do sign him, it's an exciting signing. I like these kinds of signings. I like to see players come to Manchester United that I don't know much about, because it keeps me on the edge. I'm excited to watch them. I'm excited to learn about them. I'm excited to embrace them. I'm excited to see where their career goes and if they grow. And the thing with Jude Bellingham is it's going to be agonizing to wait for him to make his appearance in the first team, because I imagine if he does come to United, he probably won't even be a bench warmer. He'll probably go out on loan somewhere. But, you know, if he does come to United, I really can't wait to see him in a red shirt in the Premier League on a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday evening, running hard, playing some football. And I hope it works out for him, man. I hope it works out. If he goes to Dortmund, that would be a shame. But yeah, nothing negative to say about that signing. One more thing, actually, that I forgot to mention earlier. There's Harry Kane, not necessarily Harry Kane rumors surfacing now, but there's all these stories about how Manchester United would really love Harry Kane. Firstly, what do you think of Harry Kane? I think we spoke about this in the last podcast, so we'll keep it brief. What do you think about all these stories about how, I don't know if it's Ed Woodward or who in Manchester United was leaking this out, but supposedly United has come out and said that they would love a player like Harry Kane, and they're basically saying nudge nudge to Spurs. What would you think of someone like Harry Kane joining the team, and do you think there's any substance to this, or does it not matter at all?
What I think of Harry Kane as a player, when I watch him at Spurs, I love him. I really do love Harry Kane. He's one of my favorite players in the Premier League. Do I want him at United? Probably not. Reasons being because I don't believe the stories. It could just be pure spin. It's that time of the season where the rumors, ridiculous rumors do come out. I think that price tag we'd have to pay for Harry Kane would be way too ridiculous. I'd rather get another striker instead of that price range. I love Harry Kane, don't get me wrong, but that price would be ridiculous. And I think also with Harry Kane, you're going to be signing a player who got a record in his past about being injury prone, and it'll be just another one of those players where we're getting. And Harry Kane is a good striker, Premier League top goal scorer as well. But do we really want Harry Kane to come in, and then Martial will be thinking, so I worked my ass off this season to now go just being neglected again because you guys signed a £100 million striker to just come in and straight replace you, because there's no ways Harry Kane would play on the pitch.
Yeah, look, I just think, first of all, even if the rumors are true, I mean, saying that you really like a player and you really want to play means nothing. Like, who wouldn't want Harry Kane, So I just think it's United flirting with the idea of getting Harry Kane. And again, it doesn't mean anything. Unless they say we're actually trying to negotiate for Harry Kane, it doesn't mean anything for me. And yeah, I agree with everything you said. I don't think there's anything else to add. All I will say about Harry Kane is it really doesn't make sense. You have Odion Ighalo, who is in form now. You have Anthony Martial, who's having a really good season. Where does Harry Kane fit into any of that?
And Greenwood as well.
And Greenwood as well. So where the hell does Harry Kane fit into any of that? Like, it just wouldn't make sense. Please buy a bloody right winger, for God's sake, before you go and spend 150 million quid.
For me, I know the priority is definitely also one of the strikers, but for me, I wouldn't sign a striker at United at the moment. I'd probably get Ighalo, and that would be it. I'd get a right wing. I'd get a midfielder, maybe two midfielders, and a right wing, definitely.
Look, if we keep Pogba, then you don't really need a couple of midfielders. You probably only need one, and that would be a defensive midfielder. And then you get yourself a right winger, and then save the rest of the money. I would like to see United go buy a couple of more midfielders, maybe a young midfielder who will go out on loan, and then someone who will actually play. But at the moment, you look at Matic, you look at McTominay, you look at Fred, you look at Bruno, that's 4 players already. And then you add Pogba on top of that. And then you add a potential signing, that's 6 midfielders already. So we won't need much more if we do sign another midfielder in the summer. So, I'm fine in that department. It's the right wing position that I'm concerned about. But yeah, with regards to Harry Kane, it's like the Timo Werner thing again. United said they want Timo Werner. Timo Werner then said, literally a few hours later, I'm not going to Manchester United. Those rumors are nonsense. So,
and then Timo Werner came out after the Champions League game and said, listen, I've got Liverpool, I can get City, but I would kind of fancy a challenge at United where they haven't won trophies in a long time. They're not established at the moment. And I probably would get more game time. But I don't like... Personally, I obviously won't like the idea of signing another world-class striker because I do believe in Martial, Ighalo, and Greenwood. And I think we sign a Werner or a Harry Kane, and then Martial gets dropped. And then, what happens with Greenwood then? And what happens with Ighalo if we do keep him or whatever? So, personally, I don't think striker is for me.
Just before we do end off the show, this is another interesting talking point. Get down in the comments down below and let us know who you would like to see come to Manchester United. But for me personally, I'm kind of sick and tired of the big signings. I'm tired of the big names. I'm tired of the 150 million quid players. Like, Paul Pogba is a great player. He's a world-class talent. He's a leader. He's a motivator. and he's an elite player who's won trophies elsewhere other than Manchester United. And I love Paul Pogba. Bruno Fernandes, elite player, leader, great characteristics, great footballer, fantastic athlete. I love him as well. But I just think when you have too many of these players in your dressing room, it becomes toxic. Whatever your opinion is of Paul Pogba, I will say this. There has been reports from, and you know, it's nothing to take, it's nothing to take as a golden opinion or anything like that, but there has been reports or rumors from the British media, because they have their agendas, about Paul Pogba being toxic. And I think where that stems from is because when Paul Pogba's in the dressing room, it is all about him. Whether or not other players grow resentment or jealousy or don't like Paul Pogba, we don't know, because we're not in the dressing room, and I don't think that's the case. But I do think with Paul Pogba, it does get annoying to be a Manchester United player when you're running your socks off, and then when you read the newspapers or you read the tabloids, all you can see is this guy's name who's not even on the field. It must get annoying at some point. And it's not just an issue at Manchester United. We saw this at Real Madrid as well with Ronaldo and all the big names at Real Madrid. Apparently that dressing room is toxic because of all the big egos, and it's expected. So for me, I just think my opinion will never change when it comes to world-class players. It's great to have world-class players. If Paul Pogba stays, that will be great. I like him, and I've got nothing against him. But if he goes, you know, good luck to him, and I won't be too hurt, because I do feel we need to start building a team, an actual team, not just 11 individuals, but an actual team. And I think Bruno is the right guy to build the team around. Whether or not that will happen, we'll just have to wait and see. But I really don't want to see another Di Maria coming to United and failing, another Falcao coming to United, another Schweinsteiger, another Zlatan, another. I'm trying to think of more names now. Who else came to United in the last few years? Another Mkhitaryan, another Sanchez, another Lukaku. I'm tired of these big signings. Can we not just sign young, upcoming players who have potential, experienced, seasoned professionals to help them through their transition, like Bruno Fernandes? Because Bruno Fernandes, a lot of people will say he's world class, but he's not the same as Pogba. He's not someone who was in the headlines before he came to United. He came from Sporting. It was a very low-key signing. Nobody else was trying to get him until the very last second. So can we get players like Bruno and players who are low-key into the team and build an actual team? Get people who want to be at the club. Get people who won't be bigger than the club, you know? That's what I want. But again, nothing against Paul Pogba. So
yeah, obviously I would be heartbroken if Paul leaves. Obviously, I'm a big Paul Pogba fan. Second favorite.
It will be a massive loss. It will be a massive loss. But you know, yeah. Nothing else to say, really. I think we've covered all the main topics. So without dragging the show on for too long, please do leave a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And I hope you have a good weekend, man. And I hope you've had a good week in general. Thoughts and prayers to anyone going through the coronavirus or who knows someone who's going through the coronavirus. And yeah, peace out, guys. Without dragging this on for too long, man. Enjoy the rest of your week. Peace. That was a picture.